Joshua City Council meeting to order. We'll start out with a work meeting. It's 101 South Main, Joshua, Texas. After the work session, we'll go into the regular meeting. This is subject to the open meeting laws of the state of Texas. Just as an FYI, everybody in here had the temperature taken. We are 6 feet apart, so that's why we are not wearing our masks. For those of you on Zoom, we do have a way that you can raise a flag and actually ask a question when we get to certain agenda items. If some of y'all have questions, I will be checking with you. We do have a quorum present. First item is going to be our budget workshop. We're going to be discussing the 2020-21 workshop. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, so earlier today I sent you guys, it should be in front of you, I sent it by email and I printed it out for you today to look at. The bird's eye view of the global budget, the first draft of the global budget for next year. Now, as I mentioned in the email earlier to the council, and the department heads are in on that, what you're seeing right now is basically what I do every year, which is the first gasp or the first look at plugging everything into the budget. And when I mean everything, anything that has been in the works, that is planned, like the CIP budget, everything that's in that column for 2021 is included here, except for the streets that were approved on the bond, because obviously we'll have a different funding source for that, so that's not going to necessarily be detrimental to the numbers you're seeing here, because the revenue, since we haven't issued the bonds yet, the revenue we actually don't have in-house. So I didn't include that work because I don't have the revenue to offset it. That'll kind of even itself out later on in the summer and early fall when we actually issue the bonds. Now, what I do have in terms of the bonds in that second column, the debt service, okay, and that is an estimated debt service. That is fairly close to what our debt service was this year prior to paying off one of our general fund bonds. If you remember last year when we scheduled for the bond election, we timed it to where we'd be issuing it this year after one of our general fund notes was rolling off. We would be adopting a new one. So the plan was there is to minimize minimize as much as possible any tax changes to the tax rate on the INS side, if any. So based on the size of the bond and the rates that we've been seeing, is I anticipate an even debt service. So what we had on the books this year and the INS rate that we had this year is likely to remain the same. So what that means is their overall tax rate that we had of just over 76 cents should remain fairly stable. Okay. So that is an estimate. We won't know what our debt service is until we actually issue the bonds. But I will have an estimate in the actual proposed budget. Now, like I mentioned in the email, this is not the proposed budget. This is not my proposal to you all. It's just putting everything in there, and really should give you a really good view of what we look at when we're first looking at drafting the budget, which is basically there's never enough money for everything that we need. Okay, so if you look at, I want to focus specifically on the general fund, which is in obviously the far left-hand column, because that is the taxes there, which include both property taxes, sales tax, and any tax that we have is going to be included in that. Now you have to keep in mind that number, which includes two things. These are some of the assumptions that I did not include on any type of additional page here, but I did mention in the email earlier, that assumes a 3% growth rate in sales tax. We're about 3% ahead of budget this year in sales tax. It's one of the really good things, one of the good pieces of news that we've been kind of seeing the last couple of months is the virus issue, the economic shutdown that happened in early March. We have not felt any effects of that in terms of our budget and sales tax. If you remember last year in the budget, or for this budget year, I had estimated a 4% growth rate. We're 3% ahead of budget. Last year's true growth rate was 8%, so we're really clicking along about just under the same growth rate we had last year. Of course, we budget, as we talked about last time, we budget so conservatively, we dropped that back, but we're really about 7% year over year. In our ZAC tax software that we use to track this stuff has us on a dollar to dollar basis a little over 11%. So this tax number, this first draft assumes a 3% growth rate. It also assumes property tax revenue based on our June preliminary numbers. Okay, this is the most recent number I had. I plugged in the homestead exemption, which lowered our available revenues in the general fund for about $140,000. It also, our most recent protest loss number was 15 million. You remember, I dropped that to 5 because that's typically what happens. We say a low number in the May preliminaries. That number spikes because everybody gets their protest in, and then as they communicate those things, it drops down to around 3 or 4 million a year. So just be conservative, I dropped it to 5. So we're because of the protest loss and because of the homestead exemption, we're really not seeing a whole much of a difference in available revenues when it comes to property taxes year to year. What this doesn't include and doesn't assume is any of our, obviously our rates. We won't know what our rates are going to be until certified numbers come out in about 10 days. You have to keep in mind that this year, because of the changes in the state law, we actually have 3 rates that we have to calculate now. One is the no new revenue rate, which used to be the effective rate, the voter approval rate, which used to be the rollback rate, and for our cities under 30,000, the de minimis rate. So basically, you add those 3 rates, or you add the no new revenue rate, the de minimis rate, and the INS rate or the debt service rate. That's going to get us our total rates. Okay, so we won't know what those rates are, and so these obviously the property tax numbers are those are going to change significantly once we get those rates in. Everything else are again kind of our best projections when it comes to year end. I project the rest of this fiscal year out, and then I use a trend analysis, what's happening on the ground the last couple of 3 or 4 or 5 years to try to determine what is going to happen next year and some of these others. So that gets us about 4.8 million in total revenues estimated. The first draft. The transfers in, that's 164,320. That is from Tot B for to offset the maintenance and operations costs of the park. Okay, the Parks Department. If you remember, historically, Tot B has funded almost all of the cost of that over the last couple of years to try to free up Tot B's fund balance and to rebuild that. We've slowly been taking that on in the general fund, which we've all agreed on at this point that's where it should be. As we've grown as a community, we've been able to absorb those costs, and so it's really putting parks, at least in terms of the personnel. I mentioned this I won't go too far into it because we'll still be looking at the financial statements for this month. But we're making some internal accounting changes to make things a little bit more consistent in terms of what costs are being placed in the budget. So, for instance, all of the personnel costs in parks have been because I combined public works and parks. The personnel lines, so the first 10 or 11 lines of the departmental budget have all been moved under public works. Both Vince and Thomas and those costs associated with their employment are under public works and Kristen's supervision at this point. So the only thing you'll see in parks and the only thing Tot B will see when I bring their budget to them next Monday is the M&O stuff, just the operational part of what they actually are still funding. So that's what the transfers in are. The expenditures, you can see the different aspects of expenditures there. And then what we do is we have changed building code and compliance to development services, and that's where we made that change where engineering, planning, and inspections have been wrapped into that department as more of a planning and developed service departments of just building and code. We feel like with the way we're doing things is that's more accurate to look at it that way. And then what we do in accordance with auditing principles and GASB rules, we take out the debt service and the capital outlays for each department and list those separately. If you remember in the audit, they do that as well. And that's just because technically speaking, those aren't a part of the day-to-day M&O costs associated with the department. Those are kind of, they're not, you don't need them to operate that day. They just are what they are. The capital outlays, so the debt service there is going to be for equipment that we already have on the books. Most of that debt service, the 113 is coming from the public works department. We have 2 large pieces of equipment that we financed. Almost 103,000 of that comes from those 2 pieces of equipment. And then the capital outlays, those are going to be anything that's under our capital fund balance policy, which is anything over 25,000 gets put in the CIP plan. Anything underneath that gets put into specific accounts for each department, depending on how much they cost. And so that is the total that has been requested in capital outlays for all the departments.
Does that include the ones that you've got in the packet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So now, so when we get to,
Because there's a lot of little ones in there.
yes. So this, so this page here. Well, some of these aren't necessarily going to be capital outlays. Are you talking about this list here, Jerry?
Yeah. Like
Yeah. So some of those aren't necessarily going to be capital outlays. So some of those are going to be in there. Some of those are going to be either in building R&M or some other accounts that are more accurately describe where the expenditure goes.
But all of these are listed in the initial run.
Yes. Yeah. So the list that you see on page 3, all of those have been included into the departmental budgets, which you'll see in that summary page on the first page. Of course, the big one here when it comes to transfers out. Okay, that is a combination of everything that is on the second page, which is the CIP for next year. Everything has been approved in terms of equipment, and then the biggie, which is the Joshua Station infrastructure when it comes to the Highway 174 project that is going to, and then the public infrastructure that goes with the Panda Express Starbucks project. Okay, so that is the big one. So you have that, plus you have about $660,000 in the CIP that comes with that. So all of those monies would come out of general fund. Now you have to keep in mind that except for the CIP equipment, we include the Joshua Station infrastructure in the CIP now. It's not in there one that we adopted back in April. That will be updated to the for when you guys actually adopt the budget. So you keep in mind that those funds for that are coming out of general fund reserves. They're restricted reserves that can only be used in the TIF. So about $500,000 of our reserves general fund we can't use for anything other than the TIF anyway. So that's what that's for. Now this year we did have trying to get out ahead of the cost of this. So we're looking at about $500,000 to $600,000 for the cost of this project. Type A contributed $150,000 toward that infrastructure this year. They're actually paying off. They actually paid off one of their notes this year. And so freeing up some of that fund balance, I have budgeted another $100,000 coming out of Type A. That's what Type A does is infrastructure for economic development purposes. So when it's all said and done, we'll have about $250,000 from Type A in there available for that, and about $500,000 in restricted TIF funds in the general fund to pay for that. So we should have plenty of money to do all those in the next 12 to 18 months, depending on how the rest of the process works. And I can certainly answer questions about that. So again, I've kind of gone over the first 2 pages and kind of Jerry, his question in terms of what on page 3 is included. So everything that's on page 3 should be, and I've double checked and had the department heads check as well. I have this sheet here, the global sheet, is the first of many sheets in the workbook that we use to do the budgeting. So each, obviously, as you remember in the budget, each department has their own sheet. This is just a summary. It feeds all. This sheet gets the numbers from the departmental sheets. So everything that you're seeing on page 3 is in the summary. Now, obviously, as we go through this every year, not everybody gets everything they want or need. Sometimes they don't get anything they want or need. What I've usually done is wait until certified numbers come out, figure out what the tax rate is going to be, figure out what type of revenue is going to be available, and then back into what our base budget is. Sometimes we're able to squeeze some things in we've been needing. Sometimes things get pushed back into the years because there's just not enough money for it. You know, our MO, not M&O, our MO has been to try to keep the tax rate as stable as possible. You guys lowered it last year by the penny, and then of course we adopted the homestead exemption this year. So, you know, those 2 things together obviously are going to lower our annual revenue. So what I wanted to do this year is we have no idea what the rates are going to do and how they're going to affect our available property tax rates. And obviously that's not going to affect the debt service. Okay, so all the as historically and as even the new changes, they don't affect the debt service rate because you've got to pay your debt first. and then everything else kind of flushes out from that. So what I wanted to do is bring this to you so you can kind of see a bird's eye view of what we're dealing with, okay, and how when we first look at the budget, show you kind of what the departments have been asking for, and obviously, and then granted, I just got this to you guys today, so I don't expect you went through all of the funding request forms and understand and have read why they're asking that, but I also invited, like I mentioned in the email, and a few of them are here tonight. Anybody that has specific requests, if y'all wanted to ask them directly about the request, and they're here to kind of plead their case in a way and then answer any direct questions towards that. So I'd be glad to entertain any questions on the global budget, or if you guys want to start in on the additional funding request.
I've got a question on the globe.
Okay.
Final column on the right, first draft. We've got a total revenues and other sources of $8,095,000. The ending fund balance shows a negative $2,207,000. But your total expenditures and other uses was $8,610,000. So that the number doesn't.
Yeah. So again, some of these, the debt service rate. Okay, the debt service. Some of my columns here are the total. I want you to focus on the general fund tonight. This one takes into account about 3-4 other special revenue funds that I don't have all the numbers for yet. So it's throwing that far right column, which is everything, is throwing those totals off.
Okay.
So tonight is just the general fund, because ultimately that's what's going to really a lot of what's going to be in the global budget in that far right hand column is kind of already baked in the cake. Some of the things in our other funds we can't really change anyway. Okay, and I need some year-end numbers for the court security fund, the court technology fund, the hotel occupancy tax. There's a project we're still working on. Maybe I don't have the final numbers on yet. So it's a lot of what you see in this master is fed by formulas and the rest of the workbook. So when you don't have the numbers in there, that's not going to populate here correctly.
And just out of curiosity, what is our general fund reserve balance right now?
It's about 1.5 million.
That's that very top line.
Yeah. Okay, so isn't that at about the level that we talked about last year or year before?
Our fund
That's
balance,
where we want to keep
our fund balance policy is just over 1.2, so 1.2 million based in the fund balance policy is 25% of basically our budget, our annual budget, M&O wise. So when you cut everything you can cut, what do you still need to actually provide services? And it's 1.2 million.
Yeah, because looking at it from it looks like we're about $900,000, under here.
Right.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And obviously this would not be something I would, anything I bring you guys is going to abide by all of the policies. And
Yeah, this is
just
the big piece, and then now
the first
what's
look.
important to the council
Exactly.
to maintain, right?
Exactly.
How far do you want to cut into? Do you want to cut it all? If we're not going to cut at all, then where are we going to find $900,000 within this spread?
Right.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Thank you, Josh. This next,
We want to go over.
Oh yeah, so I want to be clear. That's what I'm asking for tonight.
Oh, that's
Exactly
just
what you
the
said.
oh,
He did just the global. Now we need to narrow down into the items on page 3 is what I'm assuming.
Well,
As
if
the
you guys
district-
have any specific questions, like
To get any
annually what
guidance.
happens is I get all these requests and I am the ultimate decider of what we can afford and what we can't. But we have so many needs now.
Right.
And we're kind of in a catch-22. We have had some growth. We had double-digit growth in 17 and 18, but then it dropped all, at 11 and 12%, but then it dropped all the way to 5% last year in our appraised values. So, while we had a couple of years of really strong growth, a lot of that was due to appraisals. That's why you have such a high protesting loss, right, every year. So many people are protesting their values. And I have no idea what that number is going to be this year. And with the reduction in the property tax rate that we did this past year, the homestead exemption, I literally have no idea. I can't even guess now until my rates come out. So what I'm asking you guys to do is Well, I've kind of been the arbiter of these requests, right? I kind of plug in what, based on our priorities and what the need is. Maybe there's some things that we've been waiting 3 to 4 years to do, and I finally am able to squeeze those in, that sort of thing. Or, if y'all just want to, give me some broader direction and focus on public works, focus on public safety, because, those are the two our biggest and our main issues. But not everything is going to be answered. We've got personnel issues in both of those departments specifically, and as we grow, we're going to need more personnel. It's just kind of how it works. So this is more of a. I'm not asking you guys to take a red pen and start striking things, but as you see these requests in front of you, you've got 3 of the department heads here. If you want to ask them anything specific about this, they're here to answer those questions. And then in terms of the CIP, those requests, everything globally that we talked about, all the issues that I've brought up and all the different variables, what do you guys want me to focus on?
I'd say you can scratch your chair for the council. Sweat out.
I didn't even say that. I didn't even say that.
I figured that's why you put it first.
No, actually, this is in order of our accounting. So what you see here in the general fund is Fund 100. The middle number is the department. Maybe just go in order of our funds. So.
Wait a minute. Alice, you really need to do this?
Yes, sir, I really do.
I got a question for the police department chief. What is it? I've noticed our dollar value of fines has been going down considerably. What do we get in fines per month for writing tickets?
That would probably be a question for Carl. I don't know what the revenue is.
That's what I'm saying. If it's not much, I don't see replacing ticket writers for $18,000. We're not even bringing in.
The issue with ticket writers, they were purchased in 2012. They're electronic devices. They work today. But when we're doing, in my mind, when we're doing budgeting, we're looking. The reality is, people will be here for 18, 24 months because you're going to buy them, get them installed, all that. Starting to have some transfer issues where the officers come in, they dock the ticket writer, that information transfers over here. So your customers come in and talk to Carla, and sometimes that information is there, whether it's the police officer, the animal control, whoever it is that's shipping that data. I think that problem is going to continue to manifest itself. It'll probably increase just because of the age of the ticket writer. So I think there needs to be some awareness that is a potential problem that doesn't get addressed sometime in the future.
Okay, so I'd like to know that Josh is what are we bringing in on fines?
Well, I've budgeted about $100,000 that first blush, and
That was like fines and forfeitures, I think.
right.
So how much of it's actually writing tickets?
I don't know that number offhand, Joe. I mean, I think it's a catch-22. Over the last 4 or 5 years, that number specifically for now we don't break it out specifically for citations.
Okay.
It's just because some of the fees that are included in the citation overall cost actually go into other funds. The court security and building funds, some of the pennies, sometimes pennies go over there, and so we'd actually have to break apart some of those. We actually have to go in there and break apart some of that. So when we show the fines, forfeitures, and what do I call it? Yeah, fines and forfeitures.
Right.
That's all. The biggest chunk of that is going to be citations. Forfeitures, as it stands, by definition, not going to get a citation.
Right.
But that has, that number has dropped 20-30% every year for the last 4 or 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. If we're not bringing in that much money, is it really necessary to replace the ticket writers?
Well, and like you said, he and I talked about that. It's kind of a coin flip of whether we can get one more year out of them. But it's one of those things, if you don't have them and they're malfunctioning and you need to write a citation, and now you've got technical issues because they're on their last leg, it kind of puts you in a.
So what do we have as a backup currently, Chief? So you got a officer out there, and the writer goes down totally. Does he have a backup way to write a citation?
No, we don't today. We would get somebody else to write a citation or issue a warning. You could go to you know, the copy, ticket citation, that would require some data entry. There'd be some other things that would be.
Because it's
impacted by
staffing.
that. Sure.
Sure.
But, and I guess the real answer to the question is there is a backup right now for that.
These, you said we need 8 of them. We've kind of worked on the vehicles where we've staggered the replacement of vehicles. Is there a way to stagger the replacement of these? Or we might buy like 3 or you know, like on a 4-year schedule?
Yeah,
Two every year?
I don't think that's probably a very effective way to do that because vehicles, it tends to work pretty good because you buy a vehicle and it's a big thing and it doesn't make significant changes. These are like your cell phone. It's, you know, 1 year you've got this and it doesn't change tremendously, but you may have a different charger. You may have, you know, buttons maybe a little bit different place. So I think it's better to buy them all at one time. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't buy 4 this year and buy 4 next year, but you have 2 different systems out there.
It runs off different software.
Yeah, I know that this figure does include software. My presumption is that you can run both versions and have it effectively transferred to the courts, but I don't know that for a fact. I have to check.
Now, what about the availability of using court technology fund? And I think we may have depleted there. If there's any funding there, is that able to be utilized?
Historically, we were using that fund for ticket riders, the annual maintenance on those. But we extinguished the fund balance on that fund by doing that. And so I moved that over to the PD to be able to reestablish the fund balance on that fund.
Yeah, so that was already pretty much the thing.
And certainly, you know, we were looking at about $3,500 a year on the maintenance, the service maintenance, the annual service of those.
And on citations, I'm sure we've already tapped out what we can do there. It's just the way the process is. But is there anything where you can assess a $5 technology fee on any citation issued or anything to be able to fund for some of this?
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier. There are, that's how those two funds are funded, is those little percentages on the side. Yeah, but that's how those funds are, that's how they get the money. And as long as we use those funds specifically for those things, then we can continue to have that. But those are restricted funds, kind of like the TIF funds are the general fund.
Let's sort of go these in sequence. Still on the police department. What about this carpet now? I mean, you said part of it was it didn't look right. But, I mean, well, we're trying to save money. I don't know that everything has to look right.
The back part of the building, we took care of about 2, maybe 3 years ago. We re-housed and stuff and fixed them all. We made a pretty significant investment in improving the work environment there. It's in very good shape. We didn't do anything in the front of the building for a variety of reasons. Obviously, cost is one of them. But the carpet's the same carpet that was there. We're starting to have, I've got one office that has a place where there was a water leak. I've got the records room that has the carpet taken up and pushed back down where they did some plumbing repair. And I've got one of my investigators' office that's kind of at the door threshold where the carpet's starting to roll up. It's normal wear stuff. It's, you know, it's usually it doesn't look as professional as I think it should, and it creates a little bit of hazard.
Have you looked at using some other besides carpet? I mean, carpet wears out very quickly. I mean, have you looked at using some of this?
Significantly more.
The what was it?
If we do the tile.
Oh, yeah, tile wood, but I mean, I'm talking about some of the wood laminates and stuff like that. Those last pretty good. But if it's just an office, it shouldn't be getting that much traffic.
Or the vinyl laminate.
Yeah.
Probably, laminate planks.
I mean, if you could maybe check into that, see if some of those others, like I said, if we're talking about just offices or not high traffic areas, I think those costs would come down some. And plus the maintenance of the laminate floors is a whole lot cheaper. You don't have the issues with the water leaks and things like that. And the camera, that's for looking at the different areas inside the police station.
The big deal on the cameras to me is the property and evidence. We've got an area that we store evidence prior to it being secured in the evidence room, and then we got camera inside the evidence room. Those really absolutely have to be there. We've had some cameras, the system that we've got in there, the analog system, has been there since early 2000s, for what I understand. And we've got a couple of cameras that are completely failed. They are not in those critical areas.
Have you thought about talking to the Joshua Citizens Police Academy? I know they have a pretty good fund balance, and they could probably cover a couple of these items.
Certainly can.
Make that suggestion. That's what that was put together for, was to help out with police expenses. I don't believe there's any restriction on what it has to be. So if we could get that where it's funded from a different source, and like I said, I think they've got some pretty good dollars in there.
And that's certainly plausible. And I think it depends on the perspective of those members and what they think is going to be identified.
Right. No, you have to go before them. It would have to be approved. As a member, I would approve it. So, anybody else on the police? All right, Public Works. All right, Kristen, it's your turn. All right, we've got you all this new equipment here recently, but we're having a problem with getting personnel. So if you buy all this other equipment, are we going to have anybody, are we going to have time between the new equipment we've already bought and this to really utilize any of it?
Yes, as far as the mowing deck, that will be replacing a older model. And with the crack chaser.
Now, what's the crack chaser do? Is that where you fill in the little?
Yeah, no, ideally, most of your crack seal product has an ideal crack range of 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch wide. A lot of them are just not ideal. Some of them you have to route out to make the crack seal more effective. That's the deal with that.
And what are the drainage culvert head walls? Where do those go?
Roaring Springs Drive. A bunch of them are just, they're basically rotting. They're just falling apart.
Since those are in our right of way, we're responsible for maintenance on those.
No, that's tapped into the drainage grant stuff.
The drainage project in Bond.
How many is this for the head walls?
It would
6.
be, yes, yeah. Total of 6.
6. For about $4,600 a piece, I believe.
Anybody else have any questions on Public Works?
How much savings are we looking at switching to natural gas from propane?
I haven't calculated that.
We obviously have tanks there that they have to come and fill out. Now, is any of it, or trucks or anything use that, or is it just strictly for heating and stuff in the buildings?
Strictly for heating, correct. For our shop.
And with that, what is that for? Is that for changing the mechanisms in all of the units to go from propane to natural, or is this buying,
No, that's
just running a gas
actually,
line?
that's actually running the line from the street to the shop.
Okay. But then you'd have to pay to get all the equipment converted, all the heating units.
Yeah, we have all of the orifices. and
Okay.
such. The plumber will do that for you.
Josh, do you have an idea how much we're spending annually on propane for that?
It's not a lot, but in terms of natural gas, efficiency over propane, it's usually less. But this is just a way of saving. We spend a little money to save in the long run. But no, I don't have it in front of me.
Anybody else have any questions on Public Works?
Now, this is the facilities over here.
Right.
Okay. And were we looking long-term, is that going to maintain long-term facilities, or we were looking at possibly making a change?
Well, because we don't know what TechStock's going to do, we've been kind of keeping our power draw on any type of projects. We had anticipated the preferred alternative to come just south of 14th Street here, as we all looked at that alternative over the last couple of years. Well, now we're looking at it coming right down 12th Street and just wiping out all of this, which is where I'm gathering data now to try to keep that from happening. So until we know what Texas is going to do, we haven't really made any. We've talked about it. moving public works with the cost that's going to be involved to do that is kind of scared us off. You know,
These buildings are gonna pay for it.
yeah, I doubt they're going to pay as much as we're going to need them to pay for it to be able to move stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we have talked about it in kind of generally, kind of in a strategic way, but we haven't really put pen to paper in terms of cost yet.
It's still too close to the downtown.
Right.
Yeah, so just kind of keep in mind, and with that move too much in the year, that's probably an easy item, it's just kind of at this point, you know, I'd love to put the upgrades into it, but right now, with not knowing what the long term of that building is gonna be, you know, that $3,700, I would.
Anybody else have anything on public works? Animal control, we could support, we could do that one, Chief.
Here's what we did.
Tell me what a cat cage replacement is for $15,000.
Cat cages that they have in the building right now, they're 18 cages, that they house cats in. They are an open front bar cage, and what we're asking is to replace those with new cages that are more of a sealed front with the spreading of disease and that sort of thing there.
How many cats do we typically have at any one time?
They keep them full.
Is that, and the reasons for that, is there a procedure to go through, or we just keep them forever? Or?
No, they do not euthanize animals on a regular basis. They keep them in there as long as they've got space. So generally, what we have capacity for is usually full.
Aren't there some other shelters though that will take, I don't know about cats, but I know with dogs, you can sometimes offload them to another shelter that specializes in that kind of thing, where they're not euthanized. Have they looked into that?
Yeah, well, I think animal control works pretty hard every day to find rescue organizations, different ways to move animals out of their facility.
Now, when you look at the euthanasia numbers, I try to get in mind, it's obviously clear that they do move animals quite a bit. I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more proactive online presence. They go through spouse. You know, we'll have somebody that's post, social media and knock some stuff out, and it goes for months with not much activity. But
And Chief, this isn't just like one cage, right?
no, it's the entire.
This is the whole. Right.
Yeah, the whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you look at the total 37,000 for animal control, that's probably, that's one of our departments that has been a step child for many years. And such, and they are getting to that point that it's such a small facility. They've got a pretty cramped in.
What type of floor are they looking at changing there?
They're really looking at just replacing what is there. They have an epoxy floor. Once you get past the front desk area, everything in the back is an epoxy floor that allows them to bring hoses in and wash and clean stuff.
They just need to replace the epoxy.
It's just starting to peel. Same kind of thing. The door jams up against the walls, that kind of thing, are starting to peel up, and that's the debris getting those gaps. So it's getting old. It needs to be replaced.
Yeah, because that's original, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I understand.
Anybody else have anything on animal control?
Is that a requirement that be an epoxy, a sealed floor?
I don't know if it's a requirement. I know it's something that makes cleaning much easier for them.
Disease and stuff like that.
Is it better than just having straight concrete?
Concrete's
It's a little
better
better, yeah, that's not an option.
You can't seal the concrete.
Right.
Joe, I had a question on animal control.
Our way.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, been asking for a new sign out there. And I haven't seen anything on that, on the web there.
We have replaced, or we've upgraded the signs that we've got there. We did not put a monument sign, a lighted monument sign. Those were, I don't remember the exact cost, but it was very expensive to do that. We did put a sign on two sides of the building that I think, better advertised location.
I think that was the main thing for the longest time. People couldn't see what it was and didn't know where to find it and things. And that was the main reason for getting a sign. So if at one point I thought we had budgeted for it, but I think it came in too late to make it to the budget, and then we just didn't add it the next year. But I think that's one of the things that I'd like to see the animal control go forward with is, getting that sign out there where people knows where it's at.
Mike Peacock, I want to say, didn't we work on this earlier this fiscal year of getting that sign put up?
We did.
We talked about the monument sign, but I can't remember where we fell on it.
The monument sign, the numbers came in significantly higher than we thought. And so we put the 2 signs on the building that are there now, and I think they're as such they could be moved on to a monument sign when we get there. But the main reason that I've quit chasing the monument sign is because, again, it boils down to TxDOT. If they come through there with that road, part of that right of way is going to take out that easement sign.
Yeah, that's true.
And so because it was so much money, the numbers we were getting, we just have stayed with signs on the building until TxDOT makes up their mind what they're going to do. So we don't just have to build it and then tear it down.
Mike, do you remember offhand what the estimate was on that? Just a round number?
The numbers were coming in between $12,000 and $18,000.
Wow.
And that's for concrete footing, block, lighted. It would be a nice, and it would be the same brick that matches the building. We still have quite a bit of that brick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else on animal control? Fire department? Chief Griffiths there?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff. I'll just ask about landscaping. We've had that building for 10 years. It's really never been landscaped. I don't know, do we have irrigation there now?
No, sir.
That's one of the line items included.
No, I see it, but that's what I'm just questioning. Putting that in here, I didn't know whether we got irrigation from the beginning or we never had irrigation.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the building was landscaped fairly nicely because there wasn't any irrigation. Essentially everything died. And then they replaced everything with gravel in some spots. So it was asked of me to submit this on behalf of one of our volunteer firefighters who's actually done quite a bit on his own, used his own money to help try to dress things up. And he submitted this. This would put in the landscaping, the irrigation system, and then plant the plants so that they'll be taken care of and won't die off again.
I think typically within the city, we haven't had very good luck with any plants anywhere, have we? I don't think we've got this. We have any plants out front here? I don't think we do anymore.
Well, this the upkeep.
Yeah, that's what I said. So I would probably want to think pretty hard about that. Like I said, we just don't have luck with our weather and everything. I think just as low maintenance as we can get, we're probably better off. On the desktop CPU replacements, that's not in our CIP budget. I thought we had it to where we were looking.
No, they're way below the threshold, and significantly below the threshold. Now, so you'll typically see that in each departmental budget. We have 2 line items. One is capital outlays over 5,000, comes under, and depending on, and that's per purchase. So a computer is going to be about, a new computer upgrade is going to be about $1,800. So it's going to just be, this is going to be in the departmental budget that we need to CIP.
Real anything on fire department?
Yeah, are any of these items able to be reimbursed through the ESD?
We can ask. I generally don't go that route.
We talked about AEDs before, and that was one of the items that they said that it is a reimbursable item. The SCBA bottles, that should be something equipment-wise that should be reimbursable from. I don't know, maybe even the scheduling calendar. Maybe they've got a software that we could
tap into for less cost.
And I'm not aware of anything that they have right now. The only system they have that we use, it's really not their system, it's an active 911, where it's just basically kind of replaces the old paging system. There's no scheduling system that you can get from them. Now, as far as the other items, I'll be glad to check, but I know the contract doesn't mention any kind of reimbursement for these sorts of things.
Yeah, a couple of things, the AEDs and Verb does, their bottles, both of those are pretty highly, we've seen in the past from grants, even places such as Firehouse Subs, that's straight in their wheelhouse dollar-wise. And, like our type of need, able to get those kind of grant for that. So those may be some real easy ones to chase. It's not a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things, but on our part, we're looking at, hey, 3,000 here, 2,000 that department, 8,000 that department, all that. When we're really, on face value chasing $500,000, that starts to add up. So I'd encourage you to kind of look at those over these next couple of weeks, those options to be able to kind of, they, are nice ESD because they're so helpful to us. I think they're probably just going to jump on board and do all they can to be assistant to us. And then obviously some of those other avenues for grants.
And I'll be glad to look into that. I wouldn't want to see these things supplanted, whether we get the grant. Waiting for that, because these are critical items. Yes, gas, the gas monitor, that sort of thing. Those are things we really need to have, and they're expired, so we can't use the old.
Right.
So I would request council consider it.
Because I think we've been doing AEDs, I think at least one time every year for the last
Several years.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like I said, I think ESD, there's been some avenues where we've had opportunity, some of the places that have done some assistance with that.
Yeah, I'll make a phone call to VSD tomorrow, find out right away if there's such thing. As far as the grants, I can call around and see if there's anything available. And even at that, there's no guarantee.
Right.
Yeah, sure. But again, these things are definitely critical to us, whether we get the grant or not. So I would ask council to consider it.
When we get back from Burleson that was used,
That's a lot of packs.
Yeah.
Had 2 of those.
what's the window shades for? Is that for the conference room?
Well, primarily most of it's for the training room.
Yeah.
And the way the station's oriented, the
Yeah.
sun sets and basically wipes out the displays on the TV displays and the white, well, not so much whiteboard, but the TV displays. And it gets very hot in there. And then the other ones, blinds are for the workout room. It's also on the same wall. The sun streams in there. It's very hot.
Those would probably pay back pretty quick, I think, with just utility costs that we're probably losing. Trying to keep the place cool with all that sun, because the sun definitely comes into those 2 rooms quite a bit. Anybody else have anything else on the fire department? Mark,
Well, we got chief here, I do have a question. What's the status on that safer grant? Have we heard anything?
No, sir. You won't hear anything until they say you got it or you didn't get it.
When would that normally be?
There's no way of knowing. If no news is good news, till you get the news.
I remember last year, October.
Right. Right. And then they kept going for several months.
Well, we had gotten the farthest we had gotten before here, and we didn't get it. I mean, we heard we didn't get it in October, so last year, I believe it was sometime in June or July that we heard that we had been knocked out, so.
anybody else on the fire department? All right, Parks Department?
I put that little note in there about top EDC. Those are gonna be line items in the M&O fund. I just wanted to give you guys an idea, because you will see that in the overall budget. But that's really just for your information, and then I'll be asking for top B to consider those things. So, this was not. I just kind of want to hear from you guys what y'all thought about some of these requests, and certainly the CIP, because those are the kind of the big money items when it comes to equipment. If you're in, just the what kind of focus you guys want me to have, because what we've been doing is that CIP we've been funding a big chunk of that are reserves in the last few years. We obviously have a balanced budget by default. At least every year since I've been here, we've used reserves to balance the budget. So, you know, if you guys have any specific areas when it comes to what these, any department or areas that these pieces of equipment may, you know, work, the department they may be specifically for, and obviously the work that they may be conducting, and just overall the general kind of, you know, philosophy of how we want me to focus on budgeting this year. But with so many unknowns before we get our rates in, I really don't know where to start, honestly. This is the first in my career I've had so many things thrown at me all in 1 year to have to try to manage. So
The public works equipment storage, $105,000. Are we looking at building a new storage facility? I thought we just.
that's an additional coverage, right, Kristen?
Okay, so what the thing that we built last year or whatever, the $50,000 metal building is no longer adequate for what we got, or?
Correct.
Well, we have other equipment that's
Because we
not,
bought new equipment, right?
right.
Exactly.
And even on this list, there's more equipment to be added that
I guess I come back to Krista though with, you know, here's more equipment plus what was on the other. Are we gonna be able to utilize all of that equipment?
We hire people. But life still goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we do what we can do, and all of that equipment is utilized.
Just out of curiosity, is there any of those things that could like be rented for a year to use them and save some money and then pick it up in another year?
I've considered the option, but the cost of rental is going out. And brush cutters, they don't rent those. Those are beat up. So,
Yeah.
straight out the gate. You never know, they rock.
And I guess the police, we got 2 vehicles this year, so this is part of the regular deal. We're trying to get 2 vehicles every
Yeah,
year.
you know, obviously I didn't include the entire CIP in here just for what's coming up next year, but to try to remember back, it's basically 2 a year. I think there's 1 year, there's one in the 3rd year from this year, and then the 3rd year, again, there's like 1. So you have like 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. So it's basically 2 a year is in the rotation, how we have them, like Robert was saying, how we try to stagger them out and getting them on a regular rotation to where we're not, you know, 10 years behind on some of these vehicles.
And Chief, on the EMS response unit, which one is that replaced?
That's replacing the old Explorer.
Wayne's old cart?
It's got a little shot paint on it right now.
this expedition, right?
Maybe it's an Expedition. I'm sorry.
It's large.
I think it's larger than Explorer. Not very big.
Oh, no, it's an older model. It's quite
Yeah,
Yeah,
10 years old.
Yeah. we got that one used.
the new vehicle will be a multi-purpose unit. It'll be more rescue.
Which did, you know, sort of jump back and forth, but we mentioned Parks had on here a used truck for $5,200. Where would we price the used truck for $5,200?
Auction. We have Mike can speak to this like better than I can, but we've been having really good luck finding, you know, relatively, I mean, they're used and they're not, I mean, it's not something you're gonna want to parade around town, but given what we need it for, they said have plenty of use a lot on. That's just another implement we can use to carry people and equipment.
Yeah, so, and we're looking at maybe later in the year, I would assume, because right now, I mean, I can just tell you, used car auction prices, I mean, I'm getting $5,000 for trucks that don't run. So, I mean, it's really ugly right now on, you know, the wholesale market.
Does anybody else have any questions on any of the capital improvement items?
Well, I'm going back to the storage building.
Mhm.
Again, because we still don't know what TxDOT's going to do, this building has been constructed where we're at now.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't want to construct anything there until we know what TechDOT's going to do.
Yeah, I can see that line of argument. The other side of it is the reason we would put it up to begin with, is just protect the equipment. So, hanging, and you have to keep in mind, you're looking at, if we're able to get TechDOT, once I'm able to get the data they're requesting from me, which I'm trying to get from downtown property owners to finalize and send to them. We're looking at a public meeting or open house like we had back in 2017, probably in November. And then they'll finalize it maybe mid-2021. So we're looking at another entire year before they even start construction, maybe 2 years to start construction, on a conservative estimate. So in the meantime, that's it. You've got this equipment that you have out there, in the elements, which is why we.
I don't think this isn't going to be fully enclosed. This is just like a free wall type building.
Correct.
Yeah.
And can those be moved if we ever needed to? I mean, the concrete wouldn't, but don't they just mostly bolted to the?
Yes. This, I would have to check into that, but I wouldn't,
It's probably not worth the cost.
yeah, because there's a lot that's poured in place with the concrete, that, you think the beams or something. concrete.
That's the cost. That's the most expensive part.
Oh, they don't
Scott,
shoot the
you're
deal.
making a good point. I mean, this is a lot of what we have to do every year is we don't know what's going to happen, so we have to make judgment calls on either making expenditures or not making them based on what ifs. And this is no different than any other year. But right now, it just frankly, I see where you're coming from. There's so many what ifs already.
Yeah.
There already were, and with all the changes that have happened in the last several months, I can see what the point is. And so it's just kind of a catch-22 in a lot of ways. I mean, even the stuff that we do here at City Hall or with the PD, I mean, you can make the same argument. We don't know if TechDOT's going to come right through here. So do we make the investment in improving the facilities, or do we wait? In the meantime, we have needs, and it's just it is kind of a guessing
That's the type of stuff I would assume. If for some reason catastrophic aspects came, so they were coming this way, then we would have the numbers and the leverage to be able to negotiate that aspect of it as well. So like we just made $105,000 capital improvement as well.
Yeah, we certainly would get not all, most if not all of it back. Yeah.
Is there a way of prioritizing the equipment that you have on the CIP?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for Chris, but that's a practice, a process we go through.
Okay.
Even their additional funding request, I did not bring that to y'all's attention because I didn't want to kind of poison the well of the discussion of I ask them every year, okay, you sent me this list of requests, prioritize them for me now because they're all not going to fit. But I do the exact same thing when we sit down and start looking at what our reserve fund balance is going to be, how much it's going to cost to do some of this stuff, and what they need more than the other. So we do this on everything.
That prioritization would be then used in your decision process
course.
on what you would submit to the budget.
Well, we're giving you what you were looking for tonight.
I think I've heard a little bit what I was looking for, so I can kind of glean from the comments. But
And I'll make the suggestion for the council that everybody take this information, look at this list, send Josh your input. If there's something, you had a question about, concern about, you definitely want to have this happen, or you don't want this to happen, or whatever, just send Josh that.
yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, I'm saying,
And the stuff like Chief said is mandatory that we have to do. If you can somehow aspect that, because that's kind of silver bullet that we have to do.
Yeah, I don't know because we have to do them, but there's some things that we just have to have. They have to be replaced. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, like the,
So there's no true mandate, but they're old and we got to get rid of them. We have to replace them. So
Safety issue.
well, and that's always kind of a catch-22 of this too, is that a lot of what we do here is replacement. Yes, so much of what we have is on its last useful year of life, but it's really just a replacement, but technically it's new spending. We haven't actually, it's new funding because we haven't had it in the budget for several
well,
years.
I mean, it's kind of like every time the chief goes out this unit, this 14-year-old expedition, whatever, I mean, what are the risks of that involved as well? So, I mean, I understand.
And let me just say that on the SCBA bottles, those are rescue packs bottles. They really need to be replaced. It's a matter of you don't have.
Well, we have a gas monitor.
mitigate a rescue situation when you have down firefighters.
Well, the gas mileage, I mean, those are two things that you guys have to do what you do. That's, to me, those are, you know, yes, put them in the budget.
Yeah, no brainers.
No,
That's
brainer.
what I'm saying. We've got no-brainer items that.
I would just prefer to just take those out since they're no
Well,
brainers.
I would say these are items that I would consider should be in the regular budget. Itemized as, you know, maintenance, whatever it is, because that's, you know, if that's how important that is, then that's where that's gonna go.
Yeah.
If there's somewhere else in that departmental budget we have to look at, and such. But if that's one of the things the chief says, it's a, hey, this is a non-question thing, it's gotta have it, great. Right now, we're looking at this picture. As we start to look at this picture, narrow it down, you say, well, that department needs to find another $18,000. You know, where are they gonna find it? Well, he's already committed, this has gotta happen. Where's he gonna find the other?
Okay. Anybody got anything else to add? Mike, got anything?
No, sir.
Kid?
No.
Okay. Okay, now we'll go to the budget and tax rate adoption calendar. Josh?
Yeah, so hopefully, I said this a little bit earlier, so hopefully you've all had a chance. All had a chance to look at this. Again, the regulations have changed so much. It took me about a week of reading through them and some help from some of my colleagues in the area to really know what applies to us and what doesn't. And ironically, when it's all said and done, that really changes for us. And again, it all comes down to the de minimis rate for us, automatic versus petition elections and everything else. So what I've always tried to do is try to be very cognizant of your time and respectful of your time. So when it comes to this time of year, everything is kind of crunched down to about a 45-day period, as some of you have been around for all of you at this point know this. But I've always tried to make sure public hearings and workshops and that sort of thing are always in regular meeting nights, try to be respectful of your time. And as this calendar, hopefully you've had a chance to look at this. The only special called meeting we'll have is September 3rd. That's the only one on here that's not a regular meeting. But the one good thing that the legislature did do for us is just having one public hearing instead of two this year, and technically one notice. There are actually 3 notices we have to do, but in terms of what has to go in the paper for a certain number of days before the public hearing, we have to do one of those now. Now they made it as hard as possible to try to determine what notice you use, because there's about 5 that we might have to use. It's kind of if, then this, and there's about 5 different versions of that. So again, until we know what our rates are going to be, I don't know what notice to use. That's really not going to affect this calendar at all. So if you have, so that's all I wanted to show you. Make sure, and on that September 3rd thing, Terry brought up a good point. A quorum's required for us no matter what. I'll put that note in there. So just make sure that if you have any issues when it comes to quorum and any of these meetings, let us know as soon as possible. I'll also say, when it comes to something that has changed this year, when it comes to the adoption of the tax rate, okay? So we do this in September, a regular monthly meeting, we adopt the budget, right? We adopt the tax rate. This year, what we have to do is actually adopt the M&O and INS rates separately, okay, by voice vote, not just the overall total vote of tax rate anymore. We have to vote, adopt those separately. And if the council adopts an overall rate that exceeds the no new revenue, or the voter approval rate has to be 60%. Terry can, I think, correct me on that, but that would be 5 out of 7. So there's one thing we have a quorum, there's another that if we adopt the rate over that, Terry, is it the voter approval rate or the no new revenue rate that requires a 60% vote?
Anything above the no new revenue rate.
Okay. Right, so that would require 5 out of 7 to vote for that tax rate. And typically we don't have that issue. We've gone through the workshops and we've kind of fleshed it out in the meantime. Well, because I don't know what the rates are, I don't know how the homestead exemption is going to affect our, hopefully it affects it positively, but I haven't got a straight answer about that yet. What I anticipate is our current rate being above the no new revenue rate, okay, but below the de minimis rate. So the way to look at this is that 8% number that we would always try to stay under, that's what I'm still going to try to do. What the difference is this year, in the past, if you went above 8%, you risked a rollback election by petition. Now, and I don't worry about cities other than 30,000, over 30,000, because if you adopt one rate over 3.5%, you have an automatic election for large cities. But for us, we're still in that petition standpoint. So if we adopt a rate over 3.5%, we risk a petition election, but that's no different than any other year. So I suspect we will exceed the no new revenue rate. The question will be is the no new revenue rate higher than the rollback or the voter approval rate or vice versa, and how the de minimis rate fits into all that. So I can't really know. The only thing I do know is we won't be having automatic election. So.
And this is all, we could be keeping the same tax rate. Even
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So we're not talking about raising the tax rate.
No.
Now, one thing, obviously, we just gotta make sure we just really monitor and watch these notices, in the paper, because obviously the paper scheduling now is just getting worse and worse on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, Alice and I talked about that. As a matter of fact, I had to redo this twice because the Times only publishes on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And that's for now.
Right, so I had to go back and redo this in light of those dates. So we have to send some things a little bit earlier than we typically have to, but as long as it's before a certain date, we'll be fine.
I want to thank you for getting us out as early as you did.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions on the calendar? All right, now we'll get to the next work session. First item was review and discuss any questions related to the budget report and financial statement for June 2020. As Josh mentioned, there were several transfers that did make some of them look a little bit out of whack, but this was, he had sent out the memo explaining most of those. Does anybody have any questions on the financial reports?
No.
All right. Next is review and discuss information related to the drainage issues affecting specific commercial businesses at 609-613 North Broadway. Out of the people that are on, I don't know, can't tell everybody's name. Do we have anybody that's associated with those properties owned? Okay, I don't see any hands or anybody saying anything. Okay, I was just wanting to make sure you were included in the discussion if you were. Mike, I believe you've been sort of spearheading what we've done since the last meeting. If you could maybe give us a recap. Mike Peacock.
Yes, sir. We have reached out to TxDOT, and they were, and actually asked them about some maintenance along the bar ditches along 174. They already had that contract bid, and it was actually getting ready to start. So I asked them if, made sure that was going to include Joshua, and it goes all the way from Burleson down to Cleburne. And we've asked them to include evaluation of the culverts that go underneath Highway 174, specifically the one that catches the drainage coming from these properties. They have agreed to do that. They're going to have the engineer check the flows, make sure that those are still of adequate size, and to make sure that they're cleaned out. We noticed in one of the last floodings over there, partially that water backs up as it comes down and hits 174. And so we were going to check to make sure that there were no clogs downstream from that before it goes underneath 174. We've also visited with Burleson to see there's a drainage channel that runs towards Village Creek from 174 that empties out onto Mountain Valley Boulevard. Kristen visited with Burleson about cleaning that out. If it's theirs to clean out, they've indicated they would, but it's possible that that's a TxDOT easement through there. I've not heard back from either of the entities, but I've also been gone the past couple of weeks too, so that may be resolved. They are working on the roads. That contract is ongoing. I've also reached out and visited with State Representative Burns. He has indicated that he will be happy to attend any meetings that we put together to discuss this, and if he needs to help intervene or run some interference with TxDOT and TCEQ, he'd be happy to do that. I also visited with the new rep from TCEQ here, who again reiterated that they saw they did not see any reason that would compel them to get involved in anything civil. That was reaffirmed by the regional water manager from Lubbock. But they also said that those decisions typically are not made locally. That would be an Austin decision. And when I conveyed that to Dwayne Burns, he indicated again that he'd be happy to make those phone calls if we needed him to. So far, everybody we've reached out to has been willing to take a look at it. Once we receive the information from TxDOT about those couple of culverts that we're looking for, we believe some might be uncovered. They're going to check that as well. That'll kind of give us a better idea of where we are. And then I would expect that once we do schedule a meeting, it'll be something on Zoom, kind of like what these are. I don't know that we could get everybody in one room. That would include the property owner. So right now we're watching to see what TxDOT does and get that report, and then we'll schedule something with everybody, and we'll go from there.
What was TxDOT's timeframe that they thought they would have the work done in Joshua?
But I believe the contract date is for 13 days. They started that last week. And I haven't been down that stretch of 174 in the last couple of days. I do know they've started. I've seen them out there. I don't know how far south they've come yet.
Okay. All right, well, keep us apprised and let us know. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Next item is review and discuss terms of the city board, council members, and commissions. Basically, what Alice has done is she's gone back since the beginning of time and gone through all the documents that we had to determine on our boards. Part of when we changed our zoning requirements, there was a condition in there that our boards had to be 2-year terms, that only elected officials can be 3-year terms. If you're appointed to a board, you can only serve for 2 years. And we had actually had 3 years in there. So we're having to make some changes. One of the other changes was that you could only serve 4 terms or 8 years on our boards. I appreciate what Alice did. We're in better shape than I thought we were. We didn't have that many people that had served over 8 years. I was a little bit concerned about the leadership of those boards, because a couple of those members that have been around forever happen to be the chairman. Well, luckily, in just about every case, the chairman's term doesn't expire until 2021. So I think that gives us some room to this year maybe bring in some new chair people, let the old chairperson help us out and transition. But like I said, I think we just sort of went through them. On the P&Z board, really the only person there is Merle as an alternate, but his term doesn't expire until 10/22. I would suggest that we let all the terms expire naturally. I don't think we need to go in there and kick anybody off right now if they're in the middle of the term. And I think, Terry, would that be all right since we just changed this rule?
Yes, everybody completes their term.
Okay, all right. On the zoning board of adjustments, we do have a couple there that are hitting the limit. Scott Hendricks is the chairperson, I believe, and he's been there 14 years, but likely his term doesn't expire until 2021. We do have Larry Taylor that's been on for 8 years, and his term expires 2020. So we'll be having to talk with Larry. Type A, we've got 2. Linda Childers has been on for 8 years. Her term expires in 2020. The chairman is Darren Beck. He's been there for 9 years, but his term doesn't expire until 2021.
Now, Joe, on these, if I'm not mistaken, these look like A and B don't have term limits.
That's correct. I
Oh,
pulled,
they don't? Okay.
Is there,
Oh,
these
okay.
are chartered differently.
they have their own bylaws.
Correct.
All right, well, good. That even takes care of more issues.
Yeah.
All right, so then really on type B, didn't have any issues there. We do have Merle had been on for 10 years, but no term limits. We're in good shape there. The Heritage Preservation, we do have a couple of that one, Mike Puckett and Jermaine Hollingsworth. Who's our representative on Rick to preach. Does anybody know, have we been having meetings on the heritage? Has everybody been coming? I don't even know when the last meeting would have
We haven't had one since I've been here.
Yeah, so early last fall, or late last summer, I believe was the last Thursday.
been. So we may have. a couple-
I know we had 2 or 3 last calendar year.
Okay.
But it didn't have.
Again, none of those have turned.
The only- So so the only ones that have terminates are the planning and zoning and.
Good, all right. So we're in good shape.
And you were doing something on the library board. Did you get all your answers on
I
that?
did, I cannot find any documents here that shows how the members are appointed. So what I have here, I got from the librarian, and the mayor helped me out with it.
And like I said, and you need to change Myrna, because again, Myrna is one that's by the city and the school district. We vote on that jointly. Basically, the way it works is the school board appoints 3, the city appoints 3. We have 1 that the school board and city appoint, and then the representative from the school board, which is the superintendent, and the representative from the council, which is typically the mayor. So I think moving forward, we're okay. I appreciate Alice's time on this. I know it's very time consuming, putting all those numbers together. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Alice. Does anybody have any questions regarding any regular session agenda items?
No.
Next, public forum. The city council does invite citizens to speak on any topic. However, unless the item is specifically noted on the agenda, the city council is required under the Texas Open Meetings Act to limit its response to a statement of fact, reciting the city's policy or directing that person. We are on Zoom meetings, but we do give the option. It's on the agenda and on the city's website. If you do have a question, how to submit that question. Next is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move we separate these items.
All right. And I don't think, we don't have to take a vote. If somebody says they want to separate them, we just do it, right? And vote on each other individually. Terry, do you have any comment on that?
I'm sorry, did someone take an item off?
Yeah, no, but Scott had requested that we do each of the consent agenda items separately. We don't have to have a vote to do that, do we?
Yeah, we do. We can have a vote to just say to consider each item individually.
Okay, then I'll need you to.
I move that we separate these items.
All right, have a second?
I'll say.
They got a motion by Scott and a second by Robert Purdle to remove all the items from the consent agenda. I assume you want to remove all of them?
I don't want to remove them. I want to separate them. I want to discuss each one by one.
Means basically, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Mike, 6-0. All right, first item is consider approval of the minutes for the city council meeting held on June 18, 2020.
I'll make a motion we approve.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Jerry Moore, seconded by Scott Kimball. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No,
I'm in favor. I'm sorry.
6-0. Next, consider approval of the resolution of the city of Joshua, Texas, designating Scott Porter as an employee to calculate the no new revenue tax rate increase in accordance with the Texas tax code.
Is this something that is required that we do?
Yes.
And is it required
Yes.
that it be Scott Porter?
It's not required to be Scott Porter's, the tax assessors across the state, and certainly for the city of Joshua, the city of Texas assessors routinely and generally are the ones that calculate the rates for cities. They get your data, they have the software, they plug all the numbers into the software. That's who we always get our rates from. So this is actually not worded correctly. We're not literally designating him as an employee. We just have to have a designee or an officer that is calculating the rates. The tax assessor also.
And he also has done this every year, right?
Yeah,
He's
and
always
he
set our
also,
tax
he also, this is a new requirement for us this year.
Yes.
And they also have to post the rates, on their own website. So Eric, a lot of what has to do with our rates is their tax assessor's responsibility anyway. And so you could have designated me and I'm just gonna turn around and get the rates from Scott. But I would technically be responsible for the calculation. But that calculation went from 8 pages to about 14 pages. And I don't have the software to do it. So
Well, we've never done this before, so I
Yeah,
wanted to discuss it before.
Yeah,
we
remember,
start.
remember, just keep in mind on the consent agenda, and Joe asked me about this too, when Leo and Alice and I are getting the items together, consent agenda. The way that we do consent agenda is kind of routine stuff, that you're gonna have to do it anyway, like in this case, or it's something we've done before, or routinely do at the minutes, or, you know, the MOU disclosure we've already done for the year, that sort of thing. So this isn't a, you know, doing it is one fell swoop, but this is kind of routine, what we would consider routine, so that's why this is lumped in there together.
If you ever look at the county's, they got about 30 or 40 on their consent agenda.
Yeah, but this isn't a requirement for us this year.
Well, that's what we hadn't seen it before, so I was wanting to question it. Generally, consent agendas just go and go. That's part of the problem with the county is they put things on the consent agenda that should be being discussed. So, thank you very much.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, just for further reference, Scotty, if we come up to a consent agenda, at any time before we vote on the consent agenda, we can have questions or discussion about any of the items in the consent agenda, correct?
It's like,
So we don't have
it's
we don't
like,
have to go.
it's like the consent agenda itself is like any specific guy, any one item.
Right.
So you can talk about everything and then have a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Correct. Okay.
Because I sure like just breaking it down with the explanation.
Yeah, Alice deserves all the credit on that, because we had a staff report, I thought it was good, but the one she came up with was super better.
All right, I'll
That's a
entertain
word,
a motion on the resolution designating Scott Porter.
I'll approve.
We got a motion by Jerry Moore, second by Angela Nichols. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next is consider the approval of the memorandum of understanding between the city of Joshua and the JISD Outlanding Services. I talked to Josh about this. It's the identical contract we approved last year. It's just got the good dates.
Did we have any issues with the contract from last year? No, they really, they have not done much, any kind of enforcement that I'm aware of, and I was wondering if they had talked about it.
Have they done any citations at all?
Not when it comes to city of Joshua, I don't know if they've done it. They have schools that are outside our.
I mean, we approve.
Second. We got a motion by Scott Kimmel, second by Robert Burdo to approve the memorandum of understanding between the city of Joshua and Joshua ISD Police Force. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Last one is consider approval of an interlocal agreement for water utilities facilities relocation and maintenance between Johnson County Special Utility District, city of Joshua, relative to Cooper Valley. This is something we've had to do for Wildwood, for Stanley. I think this is what's also on the agenda regular to get it to where we don't have to do each one of these separately. It'll just be part of the ordinance. So this is, but up until we pass that, this is specifically, we have to do each subdivision separately.
Is this the phase 5? Is this between where it's at now, the end of like Alexandria going behind the stadium? Is that?
Yes, I think there's an exhibit.
Yes.
Yeah, so the very last page of that section, I think is gives you an idea of that phase 5 and how it lines up with the existing streets. We got a couple of visuals on those last.
So does this actually go to, okay, Stadium Drive? So this is the one where it will be tying into Stadium Drive.
This stage would, yes.
And when are they talking about? So they're getting ready to start this one?
No, we're still in the planning stages of this. As a matter of fact, I just got an email from the engineer and a question they have about an engineering comment, so.
Because we'll have to do some, well, we have to like for stop signs and all that kind of stuff, we have to do traffic studies. We'll need to do some studies or something where that ties into Stadium Drive.
That's part of the engineering review.
Okay.
Sure.
So this is extending Missy Waterford Way. That's the biggest part. Yeah.
We've already approved the preliminary plat. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
It's
this
part of the
case,
PDA plats. Yeah, well, I think
I remember doing that quite some time ago.
Let's see, just see, literally just said that. Yeah, yes, we're all working on the final plat right now. So yes, Robert, we have
Mine had a yellow mark on the second page. Is there a reason for that?
Yes.
Win the prize.
You can disregard that. That was just for me to fill in the date that it was originally adopted.
Oh, from JSUD? Yeah, what they want is, this is their agreement, and we have to enter that date for them. Yeah, so it's just a highlight just to draw our attention to it.
Anybody else have any other questions? Consider a motion.
Move we approve the interlocal agreement.
I'll second it.
A motion by Scott Kimball, second by Angela Nichols to approve the interlocal agreement between JSUD and the city of Joshua relative to Cooper Valley Phase 5. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Now going to the regular agenda, I'm going to open up a public hearing at 7:56 for a zoning change from agricultural district to R1 single family residential district on a 1.59 acre tract of lands generally located at the southwest corner of Conveyor Drive and County Road 800A, locally known as 510 Conveyor Drive, Joshua, Texas. Staff presentation. Aaron, you doing that?
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, the property owners at 510 Conveyor Drive have filed a zoning change application of their property, wanting to rezone the 2 tracts of land from the agricultural district to the residential single family district. This property is 2 tracts of land, one being 0.59 acres and the other a 1 acre tract. The 1 acre tract was gift deeded by the property owners to their daughter, which now the daughter would like to construct a residential single family home. In order for her to obtain a building permit to construct the home, she would have to plat the property, and before obtaining a plat, she would have to rezone or have the proper zoning in place. So with this rezoning, the request would comply with the federal or the future land use plan. And the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the rezoning request on July 6th and has made a recommendation to the city council for approval. I would also like to add that within 200 feet of this property, there was 12 notices mailed out for the public hearing, and only 1 was opposed. At this time, the city staff would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Are the owners online?
Yes, for here.
Would you like to, okay, would you like to speak anything at this time?
No, we're just waiting for it to be approved.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, I guess we didn't get any in favor. We did get, you said 1 that was opposed.
Yes, sir.
Did they make any comments on the 1 that was opposed?
I believe the comment was that the property was not big enough because there was already 1 home on it. But both tracts meet the area requirements of a single family, which the total square footage of a single family lot is 10,000 square feet. A 1 acre tract is 43,250 square feet. So both tracts of land are meet the area requirements.
All right, thank you. We do give the owners a chance to rebut anybody that said anything. Would y'all like to say anything now, or you don't have to? Whatever, it's up to you.
No, sir. No, we're fine.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to close the public hearing at 8 o'clock. We'll put it now. Discuss, consider, and take action on an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Joshua by changing the zoning on the property located at 510 Conveyor in the city of Joshua, consisting of approximately 1.59 acres of land described above in the Cooper survey in the city of Joshua, Johnson County, from agriculture to single family R1, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a penalty, providing for publications, and providing for an effective date. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Joe, how come the zoning wasn't set at R1L instead of R1.
Yeah, it doesn't meet the requirements. You have to have 2 acres, I believe, to be an R1L.
Yes.
Okay. That was my
Anybody
only
else?
question.
Anybody else have a question?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Robert Purdom, seconded by Mike Kidd to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, motion carries 6-0. You now have your zoning changed. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next item is discuss, consider, and take action on an ordinance of the city of Joshua, Texas, amending subpart 6 of subsection A generally of section 10.3.1 easements contained in the city subdivision ordinance exhibit A, article 10.02.001, subdivision ordinance of chapter 10, subdivision regulation of the code of ordinances of the city of Joshua, making findings, providing for severability, savings and repealing clauses, providing for penalties, providing an effective date, providing for publication of the caption hereof.
Joe, before you start, I misspoke about this specific amendment. It doesn't have anything to do with the right-of-way issue. This is more important than that. So I don't want to take Aaron's bubble here, but this doesn't really apply to what we talked about earlier, the right-of-way stuff. It does, but it's not. It doesn't keep us from having to do that. But this makes Jason kind of have to do it. We complement right now, as Jason kind of controls things when it comes to development. What this does is allow us as we're. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let Aaron tell you because he's the one.
Good. I was confused on that.
I was confused too.
All right, Aaron, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, this amendment of the subdivision ordinance is due to change in policy in regards to the easements and utility providers, which has impacted development in the city of Joshua. Currently, the city has no provision stating where we would like to have franchise utility easements. But with this amendment, we can require utility companies to locate within our right-of-way. Most cities have this same requirement, and it's also a standard engineering practice. This requirement would also accommodate the property owner to meet the city's landscaping requirements located in the front. So at this time, the city would recommend approval of this amendment.
So this is a little bit more specifically, what ends up happening a lot of times, DBAT, Burger King, as in the staff report of the analysis here, returned recent cases where because of our landscape requirements, they didn't have enough room to put in stuff they needed because Jason was requiring this additional easement. So basically what they would do is they take a big chunk, there's already a utility easement and they want their own separate easement, so they didn't have anywhere to put the trees. So they actually had to get a lease from TechStop, it's a Burger King, remember, had to get a lease from TechStop to be able to put their trees in the TechStop right away. Had we had this in place, they wouldn't have had to do that because they would have had plenty of room to go ahead and put it on their own property. So what this does, it does apply to what we just talked about earlier. What this just makes us have the authority to make them do it. Right. So what we're doing with Cooper Valley Phase 5 that we just did with Joshua Meadows and Wildwood, that was more of a amicable, we're going to do this together. What this does is allows us by ordinance to say, no, this is where you're going to go. And you're going to stop taking up people's front yards, basically, and going to make, we can say what utilities go and what easements, instead of them telling us where they're going to go.
Does this one have anything to do with what we've talked about? Except on the drainage easements, about where we're sort of designating drainage easements or not?
Not specific to drainage.
Okay.
No.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. This would okay. Refer to that.
Anybody have any questions?
Jason's big reason for not wanting to be in the other franchise easements is mainly for if something happens.
It's money.
Yeah.
But they want to go in, like I said, we've already got quite a bit of right of way there, and now they want to go almost to somebody's front door, and it's just not.
So like in Centerport, what ends up happening is we have this conflict between what our regulations say property owners have to do, and basically Jason keeps them from doing what we are telling property owners to do because their own separate policy. So in essence, they're basically determining, like, they're instead of kind of determining what development happens. This is why D-back took so long to get finalized and Burger King as well.
Now, basically what we've done though, is we've told them that they can put theirs in our right of way. And if we want it moved, we have to pay to move it, but basically, so they're not really in the other utility, they're actually going in our right of
Well,
way.
that, like, it's specific to more, that's more specific to residential,
Right.
right? But yes, that's what that agreement earlier, you guys passed, exactly what that's for.
And they have to pursue Jason.
Well, yeah, because we haven't been able to say to them go somewhere because we haven't adopted the authority ultimately to do it, which is, sounds a little bit backwards, but we think we already have the authority, but that's what this does.
Anybody else have a question? Mike, you okay out there? You got any questions?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I'll consider a motion.
I move we accept the ordinance.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Scott Kimball, seconded by Jerry Moore to adopt the ordinance. Not gonna read it again. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next is to discuss, consider, and take action on a waiver application filed by Sherry Kemp regarding the height requirements of a privacy fence. Aaron?
Mayor and council, the property owners at 300 Shelby Lane have filed a waiver application regarding their privacy fence. The installed fence is 8 feet, which exceeds the allowed height of 6 feet as required by ordinance. In this case, the fence or the property owners were unaware of our process and the ordinance, and so the fence was installed beforehand. The property owners were cited for an improper fence back in, I believe it was January. The homeowner has pled guilty and has paid the fine and seeks your approval to keep her fence.
All right, I believe are those all the property owner that's on Facebook? Okay. Does anybody have any questions or any discussion on this? I'll entertain a motion then.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept it.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mike Kids, seconded by Scott Kimball to approve the waiver application regarding the height requirements of the privacy fence. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. You're in good shape now. Thank you. Next item is discuss, consider, and take action on an agreement between the city of Joshua and Johnson County for election services for the November 3rd general election and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. One question on this one now, when we do the early voting, we're still doing that like we always do, or do they still have to go to the county to do early voting for here?
For early voting, it'd be at the sub courthouse.
Okay.
And then for election day, it'll be at 5 different precincts and they will go whatever.
So
the
this is
precinct number
100% the county's doing. The city will not be involved in the election at all.
Well, the city,
Other than what we-
right, I will still do all the legal notices,
But as far as administering the election.
for
and
the
all that
judges,
stuff.
and that's right, the county will be appointing the judges and the clerks.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
And it requires you to sign all the documents.
Sure, I'd like to go down that way.
Hate to take away.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second. Got a motion by Jerry Moore, second by Robert Burton to approve the agreement between the city of Joshua and Johnson County for election services for November 3rd general election, authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Staff reports. Anybody have any questions on the staff reports? Only one I have a question on is, I don't know, Mike or Eric or anybody. I noticed before you get to the event center on 174, there's some construction going on. There's like in the mornings, there's about 10 cars lined up. There's the property's for sale. They've got a couple of porta potties up at the front and back at the back. They've got a whole lot of tents, and there's quite a bit of construction going on. Does anybody know what that is?
I believe the code officer stopped and talked to them. It's Atmos doing some type of gas work out there.
Okay, that's where there is a big gas line, I think, that runs back. Okay,
And when we're talking about code, if we, any word on the 14th Street, the house that burned, that needs to be in that.
Mark can speak, we literally just talked about that today, so.
Mr. Pickup,
Yes.
the house on 14th Street,
The burned out house, Mike.
Yeah, they've tried to make contact with her a couple of times over the last few days, weeks. She has not responded, so I directed them today to get a certified letter out to her, giving her 30 days to contact us. And if we don't hear from her, then we'll move to the next step to get that ready for ZBA. My understanding is she's turned in engineering and she's turned in plans for the new house. She has not received any permits, and from what we've been told, she's still in litigation with Encore. But I mean, that could go on forever, and we are getting complaints. So we're going to try to get her back to the table to see what's going on.
are y'all checking on the cars that are out front too, that seem to have the expired information? Okay,
Yes, yes.
all right. Anybody else have any questions? Angela?
On Trailwood, there is a new construction. I don't know if the people are ever going to have some masonry on it, because as of right now, it's, got the number, I called you on that, Alice. It's on Trailwood.
Yes.
It's a new construction, it's the only one there.
Yeah, but you don't have to have.
Aaron, can you hear her?
Not entirely.
And so
I heard,
are you aware of the new residential construction over on Trailwood?
yes, sir. Yes.
They
Yes.
implemented that?
Yes. Yes.
But it didn't have brick? Is that-
No. With the new change in law, the brick requirement is no longer required. The masonry, I'm sorry, is no longer required within our residential code.
Now, they can do anything. That's why we do the plan development. So plan development, we can negotiate to get the masonry requirements. But when somebody just goes, and does a one-off house, the state legislatures decided we didn't know what we were doing. And so they basically taken that out of our
Yeah,
hands.
so basically, if you adopted the building code, which we are required by state law to do,
Yes.
any approved material that's in the building code, you can use that to build. So wood, metal, cardboard, yeah, anything. You can use anything that's in the building code, you can use that to build. The city doesn't have to say over it. They did that, yeah, last year.
Last year, I remember, but I thought as a city, we still had.
Well, we can't, in certain circumstances, we can make some requirements on that. So,
like new developments that are planned.
it's even more, it's even more specific than that. So even a PD is an ordinance.
Right.
So we can't enforce any ordinance that speaks to masonry. Now, what ends up happening is we have a development agreement that's involved. So any type of development goes in that requires public infrastructure, that's when we can have a development agreement, and that's when we can include masonry requirements. But the prime example is DBAC. That was the first project that we had to approve, and they waited to submit the plat until after the.
Is this just gonna be a bigger metal
It's a big
building?
metal building, yeah. Now, typically speaking, so we're gonna start seeing some commercial stuff about Starbucks, Panda, Express, some other things. Now we're not necessarily, we have a industrial station overlay requirements, but we can't even enforce those anymore. Now, with that said, they have kind of standards in how they build and they have design. So we're not going to really worry about commercial so much anymore. It's just like what you're seeing now, these one-off residential projects that just whatever's in the building code they can use.
Now, what about if they're building in, house burns down in Industrial Meadows?
Right.
Does their HOA require?
Yeah, so there needs some covenants there, but we would still control
Needs
that.
some covenants, right?
I would add that Texas Municipal League thinks this statute will be changed this next session, but I'm kind of fearful that with everything kind of being COVID related, next session that probably won't occur, but
Well, and
Bell is still optimistic.
not only that, but redistricting is gonna be,
Exactly.
it's probably gonna be the only thing they do the entire time.
Yeah.
All right, Angela, you still have a question?
Oh, yes. There was a house on my street that grass has not been mowed forever. And the house is in really bad shape. I hate to bring this up, but it's embarrassing for us to have people over because of that. I know a lot of people take very good care of their properties and still get, noticed by the inspection. That gentleman, I don't ever think,
Is this on Lakeview,
yes,
down from
Yes.
Nina's old house?
yes.
Yeah, I've talked to Charles at one time about that one. I don't know that anything was ever done, but I know which house it is. I think he was gonna go out and look at it, but sounds like we're getting some more complaints, so if you could maybe get him to go back out and check that one.
I mean, the grass.
Yes, I sure will. I sure will.
Don't y'all have an HOA?
Yeah.
No.
Anybody else?
And it's a church. I was not even aware that you could have a church in a residential.
You can have a church anywhere. It has to meet certain restrictions, but if you have a subdivision and somebody wanted to put a church in it, you gotta do it.
Well, I don't see a lot of attending church members.
But they have to meet certain requirements, and so as long as they meet the requirements. Anybody else have anything?
I have a
Thank you.
question I'd like to ask Terry,
Okay.
but I don't know
Yes.
if it requires executive session or not. It's concerning the recusal by the judge. The judge.
Oh, let me just say, we don't know any of the details about that. It just occurred.
Okay.
And-
Have we gotten any idea how that's going to affect the outcome or the proceedings?
It's been assigned, I'll say, it's been assigned to a new judge, and we're waiting to hear from his office about the docketing of it, or their action on it. So nothing yet. It just happened last week. So we're kind of, we'll let you know once we hear something.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, future agenda items requests. I have one. I would like to see us change the subdivision ordinance, whatever it is, to say our maximum fence building height is 8 feet, so we don't have to have people come in here and go through all these hoops every time just to get an 8-foot fence. I think in most cities, 8 foot's pretty standard. We can say 6 foot if they want it, but if somebody wants to put up an 8-foot fence, I don't see an issue with that. I don't think they should have to come in and spend extra money to do that. My personal opinion.
It sounds logical, Joe. I think just kind of I'd like to get police input on that as well.
Yeah, so we'll put this on the agenda for
Yeah,
discussion.
because there's some safety related issues as well, depending on where it's at.
Anybody else have anything else they'd like to put on there? All right, now we're adjourned at 8:19.
See everybody later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.